live, you are live.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the wonders of this gorgeous dawn just broken in the Kruger National Park, the western fringes thereof, Djuma Private Game Reserve, where there is a little group of elephants that you can see there, just grazing through this verdant green Combretum woodland. A couple of young bulls and one bull who's got some fairly amorous intentions, I think. He's the one that you can see on the left-hand side of your picture there. My name is James Hendry, back from leave, and in the hot seat with me today, Brian Joubert. Good morning, Brian. Beautifully trimmed beard, as I said yesterday. Goldilocks hair covered in a bright blue buff. On the other vehicle today, we've got Jamie Patterson. She is being filmed by the inimitable VM Dorenbrach, who, like I said yesterday, resembles a young Paul Kruger. Google that, it is rather amusing. And then just over here, there is a buffalo bull keeping a low profile. He's trying to stay away from the elephants. I think that one bull with the amorous intentions was chasing a few buffalo around here earlier. Just a quick apology for our late arrival this morning. Some streaming issues on the London side. I don't know how all that works, but Alex managed to sort it out. Now, you are on a live safari, and that means that we'd love to hear from you. Please do talk to us. Questions at WildEarthTV if you want to tweet us, if you want to email us, and then hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. All around us you can hear the crested barbets going, so should you wish to tweet like them, Twitter, hashtag Safari Live. Otherwise, the YouTube chat stream, that's always a difficult thing to say first off in the morning. YouTube chat stream is a very good way of talking to us. So welcome to it. We're going to spend the next 3 hours or so driving around the wonders of the African morning and see what we can find. At the moment, I don't think we're going to move too far. There are buffalo all around, buffalo bulls, and then those elephants through there, and they're all just enjoying this lovely morning. And thank you to all of you for your kind welcoming of Brian and I back to the fold of the wilderness here. He's quite itchy, that fellow. Oh, is that a cataract or just a reflection, Brian? It's a cataract. Oh dear, he's only going to be able to see through one eye. That gives him a kind of zombie-like appearance. Of course, the technology of ophthalmic surgery has not really reached buffalo society yet, so he's going to have to cope with that. And while it looks like a cataract, it is probably more likely an injury where he had been running away from something and spiked his eye on a thorn or on a twig, and that has probably resulted in blindness in the left eye there, which will definitely compromise his ability to see predators, but that's why he'll hang around in a group. An old buffalo bull. And all around you can hear beautiful bird sound. Like I said, the crested barbets, ring-necked doves. There was a sabota lark calling vociferously before you came to see us. And there, the buffalo, and to the left of him, the mighty sun has just come up. Isn't that lovely? And as the sun comes up, bright red, of course, we must remember to welcome the bright red hair of Kirsten McLennan-Smith back from her leave, and she is directing this morning, being ably assisted by Rebecca. Well, I'm not sure how ably Rebecca's assisting, given that she's been here less than 24 hours, but I think within the next day or so, Rebecca, of course, will be directing. Gorgeous, gorgeous sun. And apparently you have seen that buffalo before with his cataract. And it's amazing to me, you know, so often the the impala and those sorts of things are totally indistinguishable from each other. Sorry, you could hear that my voice became arrested as a comment from Kimber came through, and I was just going to say that the buffalo, of course, looks so completely individual, so they are easy to identify normally. And Kimber, you were saying that you've been told that this buffalo is going blind in his other eye as well. I'll try and get a look at that now. That is just wonderful. And I got to tell you, the smells around here this morning, just stunning. Some sweet smells of flowers, of new green vegetation, aromatic vegetation. There I am, just popping up. The buffalo's gone through there. So Kimber, let's go and see if we can't find and have a look at whether he is indeed going blind in that other eye. It's the call of a tawny flanked prinia. Tip, 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 tip. It's quite thick in here, so if we don't get a good view of that buffalo, I'm not going to try and chase him through here. But I think they're probably heading out onto quarantine clearings. I suspect because the night was warmish, they've been grazing through here throughout the night, and they will head out down towards the Djuma Dam shortly to have their morning coffee of, well, morning soup really, of dung and water and mud and waste products from terrapins. That's the kind of morning affair. Not quite a very fine Italian brew that we had this morning. Right, I don't know where the buffalo's gone, but there is a young elephant bull. He was the first chap we saw today. There's some more elephants coming out of the bush now in front of us. I think this is a group of young bulls. There they are. You see them, Brian? Mm-hmm. That's that thing there.
No, your hand's in the way.
Oh, sorry. Now these two bulls are talking to each other. Watch, there we go, trunk in the mouth. That's how they greet each other. It helps them to smell. And now they're just going to have a little bit of a kind of argy-bargy. Now, you could tell they were talking to each other. This is two young bulls and then another little one behind. He's a smaller one. You can tell they're talking to each other just by the fact that they walked up, and as they saw each other, they lifted their heads, and there was just very clearly some kind of communication going on. There is now as well, and you can see the one on the left is starting to stream slightly from his temporal gland. There we go. He's bigger, and so he's going to assert himself. And, of course, relieve himself of some unwanted, undigested material. Thank you for that. He seems to have something of a runny tummy. I'm not sure what that means. Now, there's a lot of dominance display going on here, of course. Bit of feeding. So the reason that elephant looks, I suppose, like he's become aroused is simply because there is this dominance display, and this is very common with lots of mammals. When there is a dominance display, even between two cats or two buffalo or two elephants, that often happens. And I think sometimes it's mistaken for some kind of sexual behavior, if you like, but I don't think that's what's going on here. I think it's almost entirely likely that it is a dominance display. It happens with giraffe, and for a long time people thought that it indicated that there was homosexuality amongst giraffe. And while there might be amongst some of the animals, I think often it is certainly an example of dominance display. And just like male human beings will seek to assert dominance over each other, that's exactly what these elephants are doing, by pushing each other about. I don't think there's much of a contest here, as that other fellow is quite large. Matthew, a very nice question. You're in Los Angeles, where it must be pretty late at night. Matthew, you say that, is it not noticeable that the condition of the elephants here has improved over the last little while as a result of the rain and the green growth that has come with it? Matthew, I would say yes, it is. I mean, elephants not as obviously as, for example, the buffalo, which was starting to look a bit ropey when I went on leave. But yes, I would say the general condition of all the animals I've seen in the last 24 hours or so also have been much improved from the condition that they were 2 weeks ago when I went on leave. And also, I mean, you can tell that the diet has changed completely for the elephants. The elephants were, apart from that one which is eating a seedling, the elephants are eating largely grass now, which is the normal thing that they would be eating at this time of year. But this little fellow here trying to smell the air. Are they talking to each other again? You can just see. He's also communicating with us, of course. And young bulls like this will enjoy spending time with each other. He's probably about almost 20 years old. Oi, careful, don't back into us. He's only about 9 feet from us, having a little fight. And just wonderful that they don't pay us any attention. Well, except that if they come reversing towards us, of course. Oh, this is brilliant. This is just wonderful. And amazing, I mean, the damage that he could do with those tusks if he wanted to would be substantial and obviously extremely traumatic. But although he looks like he's shoving his colleague very hard, and I mean, certainly if we were human beings, it would be extremely hard. For the elephants, of course, that's not the case. Let me just reverse back a bit. I think these are worth spending a bit of time with, these chaps. We're heading towards quarantine clearings. Hello, Catherine. You want to know if these elephants are playful or actually fighting? There's a little bit of both, but it's largely playful. They've got slightly beyond the age where playing is a genuine option. This is much more it's kind of a dominance hierarchy thing. It is kind of play wrestling, but there is an element of seriousness to it. And that element is the dominance hierarchy that is being asserted. And that's simply a function of size. You can see the one on the left of your picture is much larger than the one moving out to the right there. I think also elephants, you know, it's funny. When we drive up to them, they quite often spend a bit of time looking at us and smelling us. I mean, and a lot of them know us. Well, I mean, they know vehicles. And I think that they get bored, you know. I think they get bored eating all day long. And there's a bit of entertainment when we come along, as long as they don't feel threatened. See how perfect the light is. Beautiful golden light. Right, well, I think we'll probably leave them to graze off into the clearing here. And let's head down. We're going to go towards the southern boundary. The Birmingham boys were calling there most of last night. I think they've probably gone south, but we'll see. And then also, of course, rather hoping that Karula might pop across at some stage. And, of course, we're getting to 2 months old for her babies, and that means we'll be able to start viewing them fairly soon, probably in the next day or so if they come across here. So that's good news. Let's head across to Jamie. She has got a small, wise bird to show you.
Now he's flown away. He's perched on a tree. There he is. That's lovely. Grey hornbill greeting the morning. Well, at least we got to see him slightly, even if he did disappear at exactly the wrong moment. Let's see if he calls. It always looks so joyful. The grey hornbill call. Like they're shouting their joy to the skies. The birds are all going wild this morning. Lots and lots of calls. But yes, good morning. My name is Jamie. I have Liam with me.
Hello everybody, I'm just looking for tracks on the road. Sorry about Jamie's lack of signal. Tortoise tracks, some hyena tracks, and an elephant track, unsurprisingly. But no leopard tracks, the stage. Now, we have to, in the next few days, try and find the hyena den, which has disappeared. It might be that they were just not there yesterday. I did check the 2 on Aubrey's Road. I didn't find any hyenas there, which was a bit distressing for me, of course. I've missed my hyena friends over the last 2 weeks. But I'm sure we'll find them in due course. Possibly will take us having a bit of a wander about there on foot. There are areas there in that sort of general vicinity that are almost accessible. So that's actually quite nice. There and see if we can't find them on foot. Some of you are also wondering why it is that we're not doing the bushwalks at the moment. The reason is the camp is in for repairs. Hello, James. You say, or the aliens, perhaps, are playing an April Fool's joke on us. Ha 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 ha. James Richard, I'm not sure if you heard me reiterating your comment, but you say because of April Fools we should find an African joker. We need to do that, certainly. We had lots of discussions over what sorts of jokes we should play on you all, but I found generally that April Fool's jokes on safari tend not to work, and I remember a couple of incidents where, ooh, look at that. This is not a joke, there's a warthog there who thinks we haven't seen him. I will tell you my story shortly. There he is. He's just popped his head out of his burrow. And unlike most animals, of course, a warthog does not want to be in his burrow if there's something else around. So it's almost like a sort of shelter from the elements rather than a shelter from predators, the burrow. And as soon as predators come around, a warthog will explode out of the burrow and disappear. So, where I used to work, or various places I used to work, often somebody on April the 1st, and I guarantee you it's going on all around us right now, somebody will say, just found 10 wild dogs chasing down a kudu, and it'll always be on the farthest corner of the reserve, which of course results in everybody else rushing towards that area only to find either nothing or, say, a cardboard cutout of a wild dog in the tree. And for the rangers, of course, that's relatively amusing. I say relatively. For the guests, of course, who are paying handsomely to be in the reserve, it's generally not considered very amusing in the slightest. And so we kind of decided against doing anything like that, simply because, of course, for those of you who are giving of your valuable time and intellect, chasing cardboard cutouts in trees, well, sometimes it can be quite funny, but sometimes just not so much. It might be something unusual on the afternoon drive. I don't know how funny it will be. It will be quite funny, actually, but it certainly won't be a waste of your time. So keep watching. Right, we're going to head down towards Shibam Road and then around Treehouse Dam. Now, Karula's den, or the last place that we know that she had her cubs, was just south of our boundary in that sort of direction there. And so we're going to keep a lookout and see if we can't find her tracks, and perhaps those are those special little baby leopards. I'd like to see some baby leopards, wouldn't you, Brian?
Oh, I'd love to. I've never seen leopards in the wild.
Haven't you?
No, not baby leopards.
Oh, marvellous. And of course, Shadow, also blessed with babies. That will be very exciting when they become viewable. What did you see, Brian? Oh, squirrel. There's obviously a little squirrel's burrow here, or nest. We've got him. There. Little tree squirrel, flattened against the branch, thinks he's invisible, isn't. And I mean, the light is just so perfect this morning, slightly diffused by a mist. And so instead of going that bleached white color that it has most of the summer, it has remained golden red. It's wonderful. He's sitting in what we call a silver cluster leaf tree, and you can see on the top right-hand leaves the silver hairs just shining in the dawnlight there. And the silver cluster leaf often dies off in parts. So half the tree is dead and half is living. And then, of course, that results in insects getting in there. The insects, in turn, attract or open up ways for fungus to get inside. That eats away the heartwood, and then little nests for squirrels and woodpeckers and barbets and other animals form naturally in the tree trunk. And often trees will slough off or sort of sacrifice limbs, especially in a drought. And I mean, there are one or two very large trees around this reserve, we'll try and find some as we go, that have very clearly already sacrificed some of the limbs of the trees because of the drought. And what they do is they just cut off supply, and eventually that piece of the tree will die off, and that often happens with trees in times of nutritional distress. Come on, Wendy. Right, let's go across to Jamie, get an update from her. I'm going to continue going down this way.
Good morning. Let's try that once again. I've just been busy tracking Tingana. Sunset safari. Adult female will find out. Adult
Sorry, Jamie having a bit of a time of it this morning. We haven't found anything since we last saw you except a pile of steaming elephant dung, which is always a nice thing in the morning. Haven't heard anything on the radio today, so not much going on out here, apart from the wonderful elephants we had. Let's just have a quick look at this thing. A very lovely picture there of a community spider's web. And while Brian zooms in on that, I must apologize once more for my appalling headdress. I did kind of forget to get a hat, and then I thought on my last day on leave I'll get one. I travelled to 7 different stores, none of which had a brandless kind of a greenish hat like Brent's. That's the one I wanted. So I had to just duct tape this one together when I arrived home, and it is embarrassing, of course, and it will be got rid of as soon as possible. Now that is a community spider's web. Of course, nothing looks like spider's web or cobwebs in the morning light, and in there will be hundreds of little spiders just waking up. And for the arachnophobe, of course, putting your fist into something like that would result in immediate apoplexia. But actually, these little spiders are completely harmless to human beings. Marvellous. On we go. As you can hear, Wendy is well, you know, she's an aging old bat and she does struggle to start, but she's moving along. Jigger is still in hospital, and for those of you who don't know, Jigger is the other Land Rover that we have, 1998 2.8 litre BMW engine, about as reliable as a politician's promise. No tracks of Karulski at this stage. We will keep an eye out for her, obviously. Some green pigeons just flying off there. Too difficult to film. Looks like Jamie's signal is pretty appalling today, so you might be stuck with me and my lovely hat for 3 hours. I see, and a number of you are asking if I can auction my hat off. Well, let's begin the bidding at $100. What do you say, Brian? 150 to start. Okay, $150. I think that's a good starting point. I tell you what, somebody had this brilliant idea that we should auction it to charity. Let's see what we can get, and we'll maybe donate it to perhaps a rhino conservation charity, depending on how much we manage to raise. So the bidding is opened at $150. I'm not sure how to do an online auction myself, but I'm sure you can figure it out. Imagine the hat I could buy for $150. So should the price of $150 be achieved or any higher, this hat will be packaged and sent to you, and the remaining cash, after I pay the South African Postal Service, will be donated to a rhino conservation cause, I think. Maybe not a rhino conservation cause, we'll come up with some other something. Maybe the local school, I think that would be a better idea. Lots of hyena tracks around here, and I just love finding standing water like this, little terrapins flitting about in it, and of course animals do love to come and have a drink at this sort of water, and that's why the dams are not quite as full of animals as they might be, although yesterday at the Djuma Dam there was a huge amount of buffalo activity. Wonderful mud for the warthogs and buffalo and elephants to use, keep themselves cool, get rid of the ticks. And a very strong smell, of course. And that is from the dung that is all over the place. Linda, I was wondering exactly the same thing as you've just asked. You're in Canada and you say the catfish come back to life. I didn't spend as long as I wanted to yesterday at the Djuma Dam, and so I don't know if any of them have been seen. I didn't see any, but I would imagine that if they're around, they have come back to life, yeah. We'll be able to see, we'll maybe pop over to Buffelshoek Dam a little bit later and see if we can't have a look there, because that's got quite a lot of water in it. And as we know, catfish in great abundance. Now we're on the southern boundary, and it is here. The Karula was just in there. It's a reserve called Little Gowrie, and so we'll just keep an eye out on the road here and see if she hasn't crossed back to the north. The fact that there seems to be so little vehicle activity here tells me that perhaps they have a sighting of her down to the south, but that is wild conjecture at this stage. Brian, this overwhelming sunshine is going to result in my taking my jacket off. Of course, in South Africa, I don't know if this happens in the rest of the world, but, you know, men are often of the impression that in order to show their manliness, they can't wear a jersey. They must be freezing cold. I don't subscribe to this. Brian, of course, definitely doesn't subscribe to this. And it is an abiding mystery of our times that in 2016, of course, people think that their manliness is demonstrated by their ability to freeze themselves. I suppose men are difficult to understand in general. So we're going to drive very slowly along the road here and see if we can't find some tracks of the leopard. And if not, perhaps we'll find out where the Birmingham boys went. Because they, of course, were just over there on Twin Dams yesterday. And so if you'll excuse me not looking you in the eye while I talk too much right now, we're going to keep looking at the ground and seeing what has gone hither and yon during the course of the night. And we always like to say that the road is the bush newspaper of the morning. Oh, we've got a couple of bids coming in for the hat. Kirsten, anything above $150? Donna, you bid $151. So far, it's yours. I think we'll probably wait 2 weeks or so that I can get another hat before we package it and send it off to you, Donna. Well, anyone else, of course, can bid higher than $151. I wonder if this humble piece of equipment ever thought it would be bad for that much money. And as I was saying, we do like to say the road is known as the bush newspaper. Hello, GP Frog. GP Frog, you say, is this auction in Zimbabwean dollars? No, GP Frog, this is in good old American hard greenbacks. Now, Zimbabwean dollar, of course, for those of you who don't know, no longer exists. And when it finally went out of existence, I think the exchange rate was something stupid, and I kid you not here, like 1 billion Zimbabwean dollars to $1 US. So you can go to Zimbabwe these days and people will sell you these notes, these astonishing notes that just kept being printed by the Zimbabwean mint. You know, with one, and then they do things like just chop off 3 zeros from, because it was impossible to fit the number of zeros onto the banknotes. So now they just use American dollars there. So what used to be a really cheap holiday destination for South Africans is no longer. There is another game drive driving along the road here, and perhaps they will give us a bit of an update as to what's going on with our dear Karula and her little babies. There we go. Looks like Peter. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Any updates from your side?
There was my Dodangala from Birmingham that crossed.
And did they cross south?
Into
Oh,
north.
into Vuatela?
No, to
Into Buffelshoek?
Torchwood.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
and then the Sticks are here on Hoffman's, and that is about it.
Okay, cool. No update on Karula at this stage.
No one has been to follow up there.
Okay.
I'm sure the guys will after the
Lions.
gala. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Fantastic.
Have a good day.
You too.
Enjoy the drive.
Cheers.
Bye-bye. That's Peter from Nkoro. And his guests are probably 6 of the most aged people I've ever seen in my life. Brian, what did you say? At least 120 each? Yes, at least. They had a kind of startled look on their faces. Maybe they'd been driving quite quickly. Anyway, I hope they're enjoying their safari. I'm sure they are. Sounds like there's lots of animals around. So he was just saying the Birmingham males are on Torchwood, which is to the northeast, basically straight into the sun. But no sign of Karula at this stage. Jamie is going back to the Democratic Republic of the Congo to meet with Eugene and Connor. I'm not sure if any of you have met Connor yet, but Connor is our new engineer. Sorry, I'm just going to pull off the road. There's a deeply irking car driving up behind me. It's high speed. Hello. Oh, I'll just let him go past. Just listen to that, everyone. That is the sound of a car not designed to be in this area. Rattling to pieces. There's the beautiful sun, now turning yellow from the orange that it began. Right, on we go. Come on, Wendy, don't give up on us now. And so Jamie's going to have Rusty looked at. We're not sure why she's not broadcasting at the moment. Brian does say that the aerial was a bit dodgy yesterday, so maybe that's what the problem is. Anyway, so from the great abundance of 4 lions that we had yesterday, they've gone. Hello Brenda, you're in Virginia and you're asking about the leopard cubs, which hopefully we will be watching fairly soon. You want to know who's older, Karulas or Shadows? Karulas, by my reckoning, are at least 3 weeks older than Shadows, and maybe even 4 weeks. They might actually be a month older. So we know pretty much that Karulas were born on the 3rd of February. So that makes them 2 weeks old, at least 2 months old in 2 days' time. Shadows, we're not sure exactly because she wasn't seen. We were just very lucky to see Karula exactly the day before she gave birth. Shadow, we're not sure. So probably about 4 weeks after that. Yeah, and so that's what it is. Shadows, and it's interesting to work out the relationship between the 2 sets of cubs, of course, because Karula is Shadow's mother. So they are, while Shadow's cubs are Karula's grandchildren, they are also cousins to, Brian, have we got? Lion. Okay, I think that's the males from yesterday. They are also cousins to Shadow's cubs. And if so they're also siblings to Shadow, half siblings to Shadow and cousins to her offspring. It's all rather confusing when you look at it from a human point of view. Okay, we're turning up towards Twin Dams. I was hoping to follow up on the lions, but as Peter says, they've been found on Torchwood, and so, well, I don't know if they've been. And I think what they're doing is they're moving around this area because this is hopeless. This is hopeless. Okay, as I was saying, that I think that the Birmingham boys are moving around this area so much because the Salati males seem to be spending a bit of time on Buffelshoek at the moment, and so they will be just making sure that their borders are maintained. Can you believe it, Brian? There is water in twin dams. This is the first time I think either of us have seen this, what, for 3 months? I think it warrants a little foray towards the shoreline, and let's see what we can see there. Look at all that. Now, there were catfish here, of course. So, Linda, I think it was you who was asking about the catfish. Let's see if we can see some catfish bubbles. I shall take my powerful binoculars and look out over the waters. You can see a 3-banded plover at one end. And let's see if we can't find some bubbles of catfish. There are some bubbles around, so there may well be catfish. You can also hear in the background lots of birds. And the ones I want you to try and hear are the red-faced mouse birds. Okay. Also, you can hear a beautiful sound of a diesel pump in the background. Obviously, one of the lodges pumping water. So lots of terrapins in the water. I haven't seen any obvious catfish evidence. But there must be catfish in here. I mean, even if they're just little ones. But I don't see any of those great big ones that are maybe still under the mud, but they might be in there. There was, of course, when I was very new to this job, I went walking into this dam to see if I could find some. That was a mistake, simply because although it looks fairly solid between the dry land and the water, it is not. And long before you get anywhere near the water, you sink up to your thighs in gooey, smelly mud. So unless I'm particularly desperate, I don't think I'm going to head out there and see if I can find a catfish. We'll hopefully see one, or see it breathing. As you can see, my powerful binoculars have made it unscathed through my leave. Kirsten arrived back with some Leica binoculars, which of course are of an almost as exceptional quality as these beautiful binoculars. They're quite character-filled, I feel. Kirsten says we can swap. I think we might do that, actually. I'm not sure what she's going to see in the final control with the binoculars. Isn't that amazing to see the standing water like that? It's got a real kind of summer feel about the landscape at the moment, but for the fact that the temperature has mercifully dropped. And although it was quite hot yesterday, it certainly wasn't unpleasant. And this, I think the next 2 months, temperature-wise, March, at least April and May, are the 2 best months to be out here, just from a temperature point of view. I mean, it's always nice out here from an animal point of view. From a temperature point of view, April and May, just gorgeous. An interesting question from Costin. I think it's Costin. You want to know if I missed anything while I was away. Is there anything that I kind of felt I missed out on while I was away? No, I don't think so, simply because I knew I'd be back. And if there'd been a huge amount of activity with Karula's cubs, then I would have felt a little bit jealous of things. But no, I don't feel like I missed out on too much. Not because nothing happened, but because I knew I'd be back fairly soon. And it's always good to go and get some perspective away from a place like this, I find, because I mean, you can get quite blasé about the fact that you live in one of the world's most iconic national parks. You could drive around anywhere you like, You're in this open, magnificent Land Rover. You're just exploring all day long, learning new things all day long. And, I mean, one always does have to pinch oneself and say, well, of course, this is work. And being away from it is a nice way to kind of just make sure you understand how lucky you are to be doing this. Of course, my brother is about to drive off to the Standard Bank in Johannesburg, as is his wife. My sister is probably about to get on a tube in London. Well, probably not yet, but, you know, she will do later on, to go and work in her law firm. Something is very upset here. Very angry squirrel. Now, we're not far from the Wahlberg's eagle's nest, but I haven't seen a Wahlberg's eagle since I got back, and I wonder if they haven't departed. There's the squirrel, Brian. It's right, it's just hidden behind this tree. It's gone up into the thickets there. I don't think we'll see it. Stopped calling, though. I think there's anything here. We might do double back down through the Mulwati drainage. Anyway, so like I was saying, I mean, all of these people, and I mean, many of you, of course, and of course, you should be watching this in the office because that's the only way you can probably get through the day. I'm just so very privileged, and Brian and I are both very privileged that we don't have to do that. We fall out of bed into the Land Rovers on a daily basis, drink a quick cup of coffee in my case, and here we are in our office, which is just such a tremendous privilege. And so being on leave is a very good way, Costin, of consolidating that feeling and appreciating the fortunate way in which my career has unfolded. A very astute question from Cheryl in California. You want to know which trees will continue to grow horizontally when they've been pushed over by elephants. Well, Cheryl, they don't grow horizontally. I'll find you an example. They change direction. Is pushed over. Marulas do it if their rootstock remains intact. The Combretum do. A lot of the bush willows will be able to do it. Did she say hold off speaking? Okay, we are back, everyone. Sorry about this dodgy signal. Not really sure what we can do about it. But if a tree is pushed over, growing in the same direction, it falls over, and then the branches that are on what was the vertical trunk and is now the horizontal trunk will start to grow up, and eventually one of them will take over as the main trunk of the tree. I'll try and find you an example. Well, here's a quite interesting example. It's not quite what we were talking about. Well, it is actually. If you look at this tree here, this is a silver cluster leaf again. You can see it's been broken off there. The tree has then sacrificed the piece that's been broken off, and new leaves are coming out from where it was snapped. So that's a leadwood, but just behind it, Brian, once you finish that one, just to the left there, that's it. That snap part there is a different tree, I think. Yeah, and that's a silver cluster leaf there. So lots of trees, amazing adaptations to surviving elephants. I mean, I think what you'll find is that if you were to take a North American tree or any tree in an area where elephants don't occur, if you were to take one of those trees and snap them in half, they'd die almost immediately. But these trees have adapted to coping. I'm just going to jump out the car quickly. I can see some very bright green leaves that I don't recognize. So hold on, everyone. I'll be back now, Brian. This, of course, is a tree that I do know it. I just saw it looking rather bright green and didn't know if it was what I thought it was. It's called, a round-leaf teak. And the round-leaf teak survives amazing attacks from elephant. And that bush from which it comes, which you can just see perhaps over the top of these trees, is probably, I'll walk it. It's probably about 6 feet in diameter at the base. But the tree itself comes up in lots and lots of different stems. And that's because as soon as they get to any length, the elephants come and break them off. And so the rootstock of the tree has become this enormous kind of woody mass, probably weighs at least a ton under the ground. And that's how it survives. So great question. And some beautiful white flowers here, the names of which I have forgotten. There are lots of them, don't worry. So I wouldn't normally pick a single bloom on its own, but these ones I don't mind picking because there are so many of them. I should know what these are called, and I used to, but I've forgotten. I'm going to take them with me. Lovely. Right. You can hear the green spotted dove going. Oh, there it is. Oh dear, that's not good. I managed to shut the wire in the door. I hope that I'll be able to hear Kirsten again. Maybe not. She'll be very cross with me then. Ah, there we go. Okay, right. Jamie is back up and going, so while I fight off the flies, go and get an update from her. We'll keep checking in this area.
Good morning, and while James has been fighting off the flies, we have been fighting off the gremlins that appeared to have attacked Rusty at the start of this morning. So let's try this again for the third time. Hello, good morning, my name is Jamie, and I have VM on camera with me this morning. And while we were fighting off gremlins, we also tracked Tingana from where he had his warthog kill yesterday on Boyatela Access Road. He crossed west into Simbambili, so a property just on our western side of our Traverse area, and he's gone off towards where there's a nice big pan to have a drink. He might come back, he might not. I don't think he's going to come back. Unfortunately, it seems as though, judging by the tracks, the hyena clan paid Tingana a visit last night and managed to appropriate his warthog kill. So he's lost that again. Apparently, he was trying to hoist it yesterday afternoon with relatively little success in that regard. Not sure if that was just because he had a very full belly and was struggling. Either way, he has lost it now. Judy, you were just wondering about Tingana's warthog kill. We see the same groups or the same sounders, as is the correct collective noun for warthogs. We see the same sounders in the same areas generally. And you were wondering, was that warthog that Tingana got a male or a female? I'm not 100% sure. I did pay a visit to that sighting yesterday while James and Brent were out and about. And it was a large warthog, but it looked like it might be a female. It looks like one of the two females that we see regularly around those areas in the mud wallows there. So I think it was a female, but I'm not 100% sure. It was a bit difficult to tell, given the amount that he had fed on it. And generally, with predators, they usually start feeding in the softer areas, so around the groin area, and then also around the nose and the face, which of course is what you look for when you're trying to tell the difference between a male and a female warthog. Since we're here, we're just going to pay a quick visit to the hyena den. You checked it out yesterday? Oh, okay. VM's just letting me know that James and himself checked this old den yesterday. It seems as though the hyenas have gone walkabout from their usual den site on Aubrey's Road. Isn't it amazing how they've moved as frequently as they have from that Aubrey's Road den? My suspicion is that they are still somewhere in that vicinity, somewhere close, and that they haven't moved too far away. So that might be one of the things we'll try and tackle today, is figure out where those hyenas have disappeared off to. I don't think that they've gone terribly far. The other thing that I wanted to do and attempted to do several times this morning was to get up to Buffelshoek cut line. Last night, the lions were calling almost non-stop from 9 o'clock at night until 4 o'clock this morning. And it sounded as though it might have been the Salati males calling towards the Birmingham boys, or it was the one absent Birmingham boy calling to the rest of the coalition. And that's what I want to try and sort of establish. You've seen the 4 Birmingham boys together, minus Scrapper or Tokolosh or Tsotsi, depending on who you ask what his name is. But he's been looking exceptionally thin since we've last, or when I last saw him. I don't necessarily think that the fact that we haven't seen him means anything that we need to be concerned about, but it is interesting behavior that he has moved off on his own. And it's so fascinating the way that lion personalities within a coalition come to the forefront once they've established themselves in a territory. Scrapper's always been. He was the male that carried around the Styx cub that he killed. Oh, and on that subject, I'm not sure if James has let you know. Most of you know by now, but the very pregnant Styx female has had her cub. She's denning somewhere off to the south of our boundary. That's wonderful news. Apparently it was discussed last night. But yes, just back to Scrapper, it is interesting how his personality has developed. He was the first one that we saw properly mating with the Nkahuma females after they took over from the Matimbas. He was the male that carried around the Styx cubs. I don't know if he killed the Styx cubs initially, not now, when they conducted their takeover. Either way, he seems to be off on his own quite frequently. Just an interesting aspect of their dynamics. But let us go and investigate Buffelshoek boundary and see if there isn't a sign of them somewhere around there. Now, with the discussion about the Styx female, it's always, life of a lion is a very, very tricky thing. And survival rates can be relatively low depending on what's happening if there's a takeover, for example. And M. Kiss was wondering, sorry, let me just listen to this update. Just listening to updates about lions. I'm just going to pull off the road quickly. There's a vehicle that wants to get past. Two Birminghams. Interesting. So it was the Salatis and the Birmingham boys last night, and two of the Birmingham boys have pushed the Salati males out of. Okay. All right. So 2 Birmingham boys have pushed the Salati males right to the north of Buffelshoek, which is the property on our northern side of our boundary, into Manuleti, and are now coming back towards us. We'll keep listening. That must have been the lions that I heard on this boundary earlier. It is what we suspected. They have been having a bit of a clash. And it's so interesting because when the Birmingham boys first entered onto the scene and first sort of before they even seriously considered conducting a takeover, when they were scoping out the area, they met up with the Salati males, and the Salati males gave them a very thorough hiding. I've seen the video that one of the landowners showed me. Now, however, it seems as though the tables have turned. One of the Salati males, apparently, the last time I saw them was months ago, but apparently one of the Salati males has a very, very bad limp. So their coalition is definitely weakened by that injury. I'll keep listening and I'll keep you updated as to what's happening there. Just to go back to the discussion we were having about the Styx cubs, M. Kiss was wondering if a female or if a lioness is killed in a natural way, would we, and she has cubs, would we ever take in those cubs and raise them until they're old enough? And that's a very broad question. If that lioness was killed through intervention of humans, let's say, for example, she made her way outside of the fence or she got caught in a snare, then yes, we would consider it, because that is due to human beings' influence. The chances of that happening here, completely unlikely. If she died of natural causes, then no, we wouldn't. And it's always a difficult line to draw, and that's why we don't interfere where it is a natural situation. So if an animal is killed through natural or under natural circumstances, you have to let nature play out the way that it would without our intervention. And the difficulty is you can go and take those cubs in, and then what? You bottle feed them, you'll have to if they're little, or you feed them from a truck. Either way, they do not learn to be wild. And so they have the prospect for the rest of their life is to live in some kind of enclosure. They can never be released. They'll be a danger to human beings. They'll be probably unable to survive without the hunting lessons that they need. So unfortunately, no, we don't. We will not take them in. These are the old leopard tracks, looking a bit faded. It's always a difficult and emotive decision, but it's not one that it's not a situation where we can interfere. And as we slowly check along Buffelshoek boundary, listening for the lions calling again, you never know, there might still be Birmingham boys along this boundary, the rest of the coalition. Lucy in Indiana would like to know, why do lions call at night, or more at night than they do during the day? And I know that just after the sunset safari ended last night, the Birmingham boys all started calling together. And Lucy would like to know, is it because they sleep during the day? Pretty much. Lions sleep during the day. One of the big reasons they sleep during the day is that it is too hot for them to move about. As you can imagine, calling like that is a very physical activity. The lions have muscles constructed all the way from their larynx down to connect to their chests, which pulls the voice box or the larynx down when they roar like that. They have to inflate their lungs. It is an energy costing action, calling to each other. That's one reason that they don't call during the day. Well, they do occasionally, but it's usually they spend their day sleeping. The other reason is that a call will travel further than it will during the day, and that's because the colder the air, the further the sound will travel. And on cold nights, that sound can travel up to, or can be heard by the lions, up to easily 10 kilometers, so just under 5 miles in distance. If not even more, depending on if they're on a crest or if they're in a dip, it will change the dynamics a little bit. And mostly it's also that lions are nocturnal. That is when they are the dominant apex predator. And that is when they are the most active during their day. And just to go back to our conversation about those cubs, Nat.Geo was wondering if in that situation a female was killed and she had young cubs, is there a chance that they would be adopted by one of the other females? There's a slim possibility, yes, because lions do allosuckle. In other words, they feed cubs that are not their own within a pride. It's one of those weird situations, something that spotted hyenas absolutely never do, but lionesses are quite happy, and they usually try and time their estrus cycles so that they are pregnant and give birth at roughly the same time, and that they have young cubs. It's one of the things we've noticed with the Styx females is that one female has just had cubs, but the other females are also very, very close to giving birth. That being said, it's one thing allosuckling, so it's one thing feeding cubs every now and again. It's a very different thing adopting them completely, and chances are the lion pride will just move off and leave those cubs depending on how old they are. Once the lion cubs get to about 6 months, they are weaned, pretty much weaned, so they no longer require their mothers to suckle from. And so if their mothers were to be killed, they might have a chance. They could stick around with the rest of the pride. There's an amazing story where I used to work, a lioness called Frankie, and Frankie's entire pride was killed in a very, very sad situation, one that was totally heartbreaking. And they searched high and low for Frankie for a long time after that. She was seen once and then she disappeared. And they desperately searched for her to try and find her. She was probably about 6 months old. And a year and a half later, she turned up still alive. How she managed to survive on her own from that age is an absolute mystery to all of us. But she did. She lived, and they went on to capture her and to move her to a separate area and falsely integrate her into a different pride. She was nicknamed the Miracle Lion. So those sorts of stories do happen. I've just spotted some elephants just down the road ahead of me. It looks as though there's some young bulls playing. I'm not sure if it's the same one that James had earlier. I don't think so. I think James and myself have come across in different directions. We've had some absolutely incredible elephant sightings over the last few days. Lots and lots of elephants about. And luckily they look a lot more relaxed than the herd I finished my sunrise safari with yesterday. They were exceptionally unsettled. Morning, guys. Oh, little one. Hello, baby. Oh, but you're too cute. Look at you. Look at it using its trunk, or trying to. That coordination's just not quite there. Look at the foot in the air. What is that funny thing on the end of your face, baby? It is so entertaining to watch an elephant at this age attempting to... Oh, well done, you've got a leaf. How does that taste? Attempting to learn to use its trunk and to coordinate in the same way Mom is doing at the back. They do take a good 2 years before they get fully coordinated in using it. And this little one, just looking at her, she's under a year old, probably close, coming up to about 6 months, which is when elephants start feeding on solid food. She will start to snack and supplement her mom's milk with leaves and grass. But that whole process is still a little bit of a struggle. It's like a toddler learning to use a spoon for the first time. Little one? Sure. I'm not sure if you heard that trumpet coming off towards our right. One very upset young elephant, accompanied by the low rumble of an adult comforting just probably a youngster. Generally, the youngsters tend to make those very high-pitched, almost screaming sounds, like they're yelling. And it's almost always a baby that makes that sound that's been harassed either by another elephant or having a weaning tantrum. When their mothers try to stop them from suckling once they're about a year and a half old, they have tantrums, proper tantrums. They will squeal and screech at their moms to try and get to be allowed to feed. Luckily, this is not something this little one has to deal with for a while still, which is a good thing, because at the moment the trunk doesn't quite coordinate itself as it should. Let's go forward a little bit. Hold on, let's just watch what this baby does, which way it goes. There you go. Oh, you found some spike thorn. Here's another elephant screech. You can see by the reaction of the adults and by the youngsters that upset elephant that is calling to the west of us isn't upset for any reason that would be a danger to them. So they are intelligent enough to have different vocalizations and different calls that mean different things. And clearly these elephants know that that is not a serious communication, that is just an elephant having its personal space invaded, possibly. That plant that the little baby was interested there is known as a spike thorn. And it's interesting because baby elephants will very often feed on that. It's got an astringent substance to the leaf, which essentially takes away all of your saliva and makes your gums go numb. I have eaten them before. I've eaten them live before. And that actually apparently helps them tremendously when they start to teeth. So essentially it acts as like a tea gel or a special teething ointment for baby elephants. It might have been why that little one was having a good sniff around there. And speaking of the different plants that we could get out here, Kyle was wondering if we have the equivalent of poison oak or poison ivy that we have to avoid whilst walking through the bush. And Kyle, once or twice I've had tremendous allergic reactions to perennial and invader weeds that have come through. Not so much in Djuma, I haven't encountered them here, but I have in other parts of South Africa. But generally, no, we don't have a major problem with... Our African plants are differently adapted to avoiding being fed on or overutilized. Elephants feeding would cause the release of bitter tannins. Stops them from overutilizing an area, so the plants produce a very bitter substance. Oh, little one. Hey, mommy's gone. Our little one has just disappeared into or behind a series of elephant legs, but Dory says that baby elephants always look as though they are smiling. I agree, actually. That's a very good description. I really think they do look like that. The nice thing about baby elephants as well is because they don't need to feed constantly, they've got access to their mother's rich milk, they get bored and they find ways to entertain themselves, and that can be, in turn, hugely entertaining for us to observe. Whether it be learning how to use their trunks or whether it's coming to play and have a look at the vehicle, as happened to me this morning with a different elephant herd before the start of our sunrise safari. I'm just going to go forward a little bit. I want to see if I can see the elephant that's been making all of this noise. It's not too far. Oh, I can actually see it. And I know exactly what it is. It looks like it's a young male. They're going to come to us. Hello, guys. What it might have been is a baby responding to the presence of a young male or the pressure of a young male. I'll just wait for them to come out. I'm hoping that, judging by the dynamics, it might be the elephant with the snared trunk and her little female calf. I saw her yesterday. Somebody's having a snack. Apparently they were seen yesterday evening on the sunset safari. I saw them on quarantine whilst moving between my house and the main camp. They are around, and in fact I'm fairly certain that they're going to come through, or she's going to come through. One shouldn't have favourites, but she's definitely mine. I love watching her. It's quite a big herd, so possibly not. I can't think of a better way to start my morning. And it's so nice to see the elephants eating grass again. It's all right, little one. Don't panic. Oh, there's a tiny baby there. Look at them all bunched together, crossing the road. A little baby. And that could well be 3 sets of calves. So the oldest one in front, the middle one, and the youngest one. Those could all be the calves of the same mother on the right. They look about the right age gap between them. That's so special. All the siblings moving together. You see how the little one showing signs of anxiety, tail stiffly held out at 90 degrees to its body, running behind mom. And I wonder if this is not three siblings, all of different ages. Elephant sightings like this are always accompanied by this gentle, low rumbling that comes from the older females in the group, communicating with each other, communicating with the rest of the herd, comforting where comfort is needed, and directing and controlling where that is necessary as well. Sometimes we are able to hear the rumbles and sometimes we are not. But I must say it is a tremendously comforting feeling in the sounds that they make. Good morning to Liz, who is watching in Wisconsin, and Liz would like to know, elephants can't run, they can only walk quickly. And Liz, to an extent, yes, that is absolutely true. They can run, It is more than what I would describe as a fast walk. This is what I would think of, or the way that that elephant just crossed the road is what I would think of as a fast walk. They can move very, very quickly, but they can't gallop like an antelope can gallop or like a zebra can gallop. You can't really lift more than 2 feet off the ground at any one time. And I've never seen an elephant jump either. They're not really built for that kind of agility. But I wouldn't describe their fastest stride as a walk. I would maybe describe it almost like a trot, the way that they can move. But I suppose when your legs are 2 meters long, oh, look at this greeting. That's got to be 2 young boys. I love watching elephant dynamics within the calves themselves. They demonstrate such interesting behavior. I've seen 2 herds come together and 2 young boys racing, each from a different herd, racing towards each other to go and say hello, to put their trunks around the temporal gland region of their buddy, and then to start roughhousing and playing. And you could see it very clearly that they knew each other. In this case, I think these 2 are from the same herd, so they're cousins of a similar age. Pushing backwards and forwards. At this point, Tusk's a little bit too small to be involved, so trunks will have to suffice. This is just a playful scrap between the 2 young males. But Red, you were wondering, when I spoke about that baby's tail, you were wondering if when a elephant's tail is straight out away from their bodies, is it a sign of distress or aggression or both? The answer is more distress than anything else, but I always hesitate to use the word aggression because a lot of the time what we interpret as aggression has come from fear, the way that they're responding to, say, us or a different situation. Because they are so unsettled, they respond in what we see as aggressive, in an aggressive manner. But yes, the tail straight out is a sign of an upset elephant. Let's put it that way. And when there's proper aggression shown, and the only real situation that occurs is with 2 large males fighting over females, or when they're chasing another animal away from the waterhole, it will be a sign of both.